Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking how a satirical internet joke rapidly morphed into literally one of the most consequential political showdowns in recent Indian history. I'm still thrilled you're here because the story we're diving into is a total masterclass in how modern digital culture can collide head-on with traditional politics and ultimately bring the capital to a complete standstill. Let's just jump right in.
Okay, so how did a joke about a cockroach actually shut down India's parliament? I know it's a bizarre question, but it gets right to the absolute heart of the political crisis gripping Delhi today. Honestly, if someone had told you a few months ago that a movement named after a common household pest would lead to opposition leaders shutting down parliament in solidarity, you'd probably think it was a script for a dark comedy, right? But this is no longer a joke. It is a very real, incredibly powerful demonstration of youth frustration just completely boiling over into the streets.
And the sheer velocity of this movement is just staggering. Over 20 million followers. Hitting that number in a matter of weeks, this digital collective instantly eclipsed established political giants online. By tapping into some really deep-seated youth anxiety about the future, their Instagram page rapidly overtook the follower count of the ruling party itself. It's an unprecedented scale of mobilization that caught traditional political analysts totally off guard. I mean, it proves that when a message really resonates with Gen Z, the digital spread is virtually instantaneous.
So here's exactly how we're going to break this down. First, the birth of the swarm. Second, from satire to streets. Third, the Sansad Chalo March. Fourth, the political showdown. And finally, what happens next?
Let's start with Section 1, Birth of the Swarm.
It all kicked off in May 2026. The Chief Justice of India made a remark about fake law degrees, and he used the terms parasite and cockroach. Now, while it was later clarified, those words absolutely struck a nerve with Gen Z. Just look at this timeline. By mid-May, the COKROACH JANTA party was officially founded online. By late May, it exploded past 20 million followers. And then, by July 2026, all of that pent-up digital energy transformed into massive, disruptive physical protests right in Delhi.
So what exactly is the COKROACH JANTA party? It's a satirical political movement that adopted the cockroach as a symbol of youth resilience and defiance against a broken system. They essentially flipped an insult into a powerful badge of honor, creating a party for the exact people the system forgot to count. Their official messaging literally embraces the cockroach as the ultimate symbol of survival. Think about how powerful that is. Deliberately adopting the identity of a pest to highlight exactly how these young people feel treated by the establishment. Stepped on, ignored, yet ultimately impossible to eradicate.
Moving on to Section 2, from satire to streets. So what was the primary catalyst for actually hitting the streets? Deep, systemic education failures. The youth felt their hard-earned futures were literally being stolen by constant, unchecked exam leaks. We're looking at core grievances citing 152 alleged NEET paper leaks over a decade, and that has affected a mind-boggling 7.5 core students. That is an astronomical number of young lives and careers completely derailed. This was no longer just about sharing a meme. It became a laser-focused demand for accountability. Specifically, they demanded the immediate resignation of Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan.
You can see it clearly here. The movement just couldn't be contained to Instagram or group chats anymore. Thousands of young people left their screens and gathered in the physical heart of India's protest culture, Jantar Mantar in Delhi. Just look at these staggering scenes on the ground. Absolute seas of students chanting in unison, holding up enormous hand-painted placards, fiercely demanding accountability from the very top. The satire had become a palpable, undeniable explosion of anger over chronic youth unemployment and shattered academic integrity.
If we are cockroaches, then we will survive. That rallying cry came from founder Abhijit Deepke. You can see the sheer intensity in the footage of him addressing his supporters, sweating through his shirt, microphone in hand, perfectly echoing the frustrations of millions. It captured the mood of a disenfranchised generation utterly refusing to be stepped on. By shouting this motto and wearing the label with absolute pride, Deepke neutralized the original insult, forging it into an unshakable armor of collective resilience.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Sansad Chalo March. 50,000. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's the estimated number of furious protesters who attempted to march directly on the Indian parliament, openly defying strict police orders to disperse. 50,000 young people coordinating what they called the Sansad Chalo, or March to Parliament, completely determined to make sure their voices were heard at the absolute highest level of the nation's governance, no matter the consequences.
And the consequences were severe. Multi-layered barricades, tear gas, violent clashes erupting right in the capital. The atmosphere was incredibly tense. To contain these chaotic crowds, authorities deployed a massive security presence. As you can see, the Rapid Action Force was brought in wearing full riot gear to stand alongside Delhi police. What started as a determined march deteriorated really quickly. Multi-layered iron and concrete barricades were physically breached by the sheer mass of students pushing forward, which prompted the immediate use of tear gas and water cannons. For hours, the streets of the capital literally resembled a battleground.
The crackdown was swift. Mobile internet was completely suspended in central Delhi, and police registered 6 FIRs for rioting and assault. But, and here's the fascinating cat-and-mouse game, when authorities cut the internet, this highly tech-savvy generation didn't just give up. They simply pivoted to offline Bluetooth mesh networks to communicate and keep the march alive. Their incredible ability to adapt on the fly using mesh messaging apps proves that traditional crowd control and communication blackouts are severely struggling to keep up with digital natives.
Next up, Section 4, the political showdown. Our education system is today a rigged system. The gravity of this whole crisis became completely undeniable when major opposition leaders stepped directly into the fray. Just look at these dramatic scenes of Rahul Gandhi being physically detained by police outside the Prime Minister's residence. Surrounded by heavy security forces and flashing cameras, he was escorted into a police van. Following his release, Gandhi held a really fiery press conference, pointing directly to the 152 exam leaks and asking what students had done wrong to have weapons aimed at them.
Now, to remain completely objective, we absolutely have to look at both sides of this clash. On one hand, protesters in the opposition maintain they're defending the youth against a rigged system that's actively destroying student futures. But on the flip side, the government and police state they're actually investigating a larger criminal conspiracy that's been hijacked by an, quote, anti-India anarchist gang. While the protesters assert they are peacefully demanding a fair education system, the ruling party points to the violence and the stone pelting, alleging that legitimate grievances have been compromised by anarchist elements just looking to destabilize the nation.
Adding a dire human element to all this political chaos is activist Sonam Wangchuk. He's now 25 days into an indefinite hunger strike and was actually just transferred to Medona Hospital by high court order. Wangchuk is a highly prominent figure who aligned his own climate and regional demands with the youth movement, but his health has rapidly deteriorated. His frail condition has really amplified the intense emotional atmosphere surrounding these protests. It's turned a rigid political standoff into a very real race against time for his survival.
Which leads us to Section 5, what happens next? Well, right now we are at a total stalemate. As you can see, the government offered an olive branch, proposing talks with Union Minister J.P. Nadda, and they're awaiting a response while they continue their probe. But the CJP, they flatly rejected the invitation to Nadda's residence. Instead, their stance is that any and all talks must happen openly and publicly right at the protest site of Jantar Mantar. It's a tremendous flex of political muscle, and honestly, sheer audacity from a group that literally did not exist just a few months ago.
So will this digital swarm permanently reshape Indian politics, or will the movement ultimately be squashed? It leaves us with this final, pressing thought to take away. Is the Cockroach Janta Party just a temporary viral glitch, or the dawn of a massive Gen Z political awakening in India? What began as a sarcastic internet meme has forced a national reckoning on education, unemployment, and the terrifying power of digital organizing. Whether the swarm is eventually dispersed or permanently alters the landscape, the system isn't going to forget them anytime soon. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on how this unprecedented story continues.